So this is the beginning of your lesson planning. This is your resources page. Over here on the right side, you can see there's selected resource strength. This is a new feature that they've recently added. And Tailor-ED pre-chooses resources for you, but they recognize that you are the expert in the classroom, and it allows you to have control. If you look at my little scale over here, it says that my selected resource strength is master, but it shows me right here that I am missing a medium proficiency activity. So I can scroll down to where it says browse resources, and I can see all of the resources Tailor-ED has identified as available for this lesson. I know I need a medium proficiency, so I can go in here and filter. And I just want my medium proficiency one. So these three, missing add-ins, picking places, and you be the teacher, are medium proficiency. So I'm just going to choose picking places. And once I click that box right there, it adds it up here to my selected resources. And you can see that my resource strength has gone all the way over to master. I have all of my areas covered. You can always preview the resources before you move forward. You just click on the resource and it pulls it up. It will let you see, it'll give you an estimated time. You can even go further and actually see where the resource comes from. So once you have your resources chosen, you just hit the next button. And this is where your flexible grouping happens. So based on the pre-assessment, it groups your students, and you can see the reasons that the students are grouped together. Each group has a description as to why those students are grouped together. You can change these groups around. You can change the number of groups. Let's say you wanted to have 6 groups. It will go in and give you 6 groups, or let's say you only wanted 2 groups. You can see how it does that for you. You can also go in and change the groups. So you could, if you just wanted to pull out your students who were above grade level or just your students who were below grade level, you can choose the group attributes. And you can also, if you need to, you can go in and manually change the students' learner profiles. So if you have 2 students that should never be in a group together for whatever reason, you have the ability to go in there and keep that from happening. Tailor-ED is super smart, but it acknowledges that you as the teacher know your students best. It's important to note that at the end of each lesson, students are asked to complete an exit ticket. This includes motivation and learning style questions, so Tailor-ED is continuously improving the way that students are grouped. Once you have your groups the way that you want them, I'm going to go back to 4 groups. You hit next. This is your activity matrix, so it lays it out for you. It shows you which activities each group will participate in. You can again preview these activities from here just by clicking on the name of the activity. If you have a lot of time in your class and you know that 2 activities is not going to be enough, you can click on these 3 dots and you can add another row. You can add another activity, and then you can actually go in and let's say I want this to be a teacher activity, and I want this one to be a group activity. And I can always go in and change these things if I need to. You can also delete rows. Let's say you only have time for 1 activity. You can go in and delete a row so that there's only 1 activity. Again, like I said, you can preview these. So I'm going to go in and add back a row, and I'm just going to choose some things. There we go. And I'm going to hit next. This is your actual lesson plan. You can export it, you can print it, and depending on what your administrator's requirements are, it might be enough that you could print it off and this would be your lesson plan. If it's not, this is a good place to start writing your lesson plan. Like I said, you can print it and export it. You can see it's pretty long, but it actually even tells you, what order to teach it in, which students. It gives you a learning objective, a material, vocabulary, the prior knowledge that students should have. This student lesson link button is a new feature, and I absolutely love it. So if you click on this button, you can share this, the student-facing portion of this with your students. So I'm going to click on the link and show you what that looks like. So the student can go in and select their name, and it will show them who's in their group. It will show them what they're expected to do. They need to complete jumping beans and classroom supplies. If they hover over the activity, it gives them the directions for that activity. At the bottom of the screen, it gives them their exit ticket link. Over here on this side, there's an option for a review video. So let's say the student is working and they get stuck and they can't remember how to subtract 3-digit numbers. They can click on this review video. It links them out to a video that explains the skill again. It also has an early finisher link, so they get finished. They're sitting around, and instead of just wasting time or distracting other students, they can click on the early finisher link and it will give them another activity to do. You don't have to have this student lesson side for Tailor-ED to work, but if you teach in a one-to-one environment, this is so helpful. It's one of my favorite new features. So I want to show you a couple of things that are my absolute favorite things about Tailor-ED. So I'm going to go into this class right here, and I'm going to choose View Results. So once the students have, they finish the lesson, they finish their activities, they do the exit ticket. On the exit ticket, there are always 2 proficiency questions, and then as I told you earlier, there are some questions to help make sure that they're staying in the correct group. But at the very end of the exit ticket, they have a question, one thing I learned today and one thing I didn't understand today. All of that data comes back to you on the results dashboard. So you can see how many students have completed the exit ticket. You can see if anybody has been flagged for a lack of proficiency. You can see here that this student Brody has been flagged because his proficiency on the exit ticket was not good. So maybe now I know by seeing that, oh, Brody's been flagged, I need to pull him to the side and say, hey, let's work through this and make sure you really understand it. But the best part of the results dashboard to me is the one thing I learned today and the one thing I didn't understand today, because here the students can free type in whatever it is that they learned. This past school year, as I told you earlier, I am an intervention teacher, and I had a group of 5th graders that were working with me, and we really, really struggled with that math lesson that day. They just could not understand it. And so they were getting frustrated and I was getting frustrated. And so I just said, okay, let's stop for a minute. And we had a discussion about perseverance and how important it was to, even though it was hard and we were working hard and our brains were tired and, we had to keep going. We had to push through the frustration to get to the end result. And I just, I didn't really think a whole lot about it when I, was talking to them. But that day when they took their exit ticket, almost all of those students in the one thing that they learned today had nothing to do with math. They didn't come in and say, oh yeah, I learned how to, figure the area of a rectilinear figure. They all put in there, they learned how important it was to persevere. and how good they felt when they pushed through that frustration and they made the learning happen for themselves. And that just did my heart good to know that, even though they're fifth graders and I didn't really think they were listening to me, they were listening to me. So that was just one of my favorite things that I've ever seen happen on the results dashboard. We also now, this is a new feature, we have individual student pages. So if you go into My Classroom and choose the classroom that you want to look at, and you click on this particular student, it will take you to their individual student page. This gives you a lot of insight for grading, for more tailored instruction, and for reporting purposes. So you can see Brody's goal that he set for himself, be the best student I can be. You can see his confidence, his motivation, his proficiency. You can see his learner profile. And over here, you can see all the topics that he's learned. This area right here shows you the individual reporting from the results dashboard, what they learned, what they didn't understand. So this could even be printable if you wanted it to be. It really will help you in understanding your students individually and where they're struggling. We know as teachers that individual data drives personalization and differentiation. The amount of data that Tailor-ED provides to you as a teacher is incredible. So I want to show you very quickly how to sign up for Tailor-ED. I was part of the Tailor-ED beta program, and Tailor-ED is going live in 4 days. They're going to be widespread, but all you need to do to sign up for Tailor-ED is to go to www.tailored.com, and then right here you put in your email and you tick your box and you click Get Promo Code, and they will email you back with instructions on how to set up your Tailor-ED account. And because they're launching in 4 days, you can get free premium access if you sign up. And it's really a great tool. I can't say enough about it, about how much it has helped me and how much it has helped me differentiate math lessons that I teach in my classroom. So I'm going to go back over here. And I hope that this has inspired you and given you an introduction on how using Tailor-ED can help you quickly and easily add differentiation to your math lessons. I'm going to open the floor up for questions, and I'm going to switch over to GoToMeeting so I can read if there's any questions in the chat box.
I would like to start with asking a question, if that's okay, Samantha.
Yes,
because now we're talking specifically differentiation in mathematics, but you also have an English background. What would differentiation in English look like? Is it any different? And in that sense, could Tailor-ED be applied to differentiation in English as well, or is it only specifically for mathematics? And this might also be, because I do appreciate the product hasn't officially launched yet, but is it a differentiation tool, Tailor-ED, or is it a differentiation in mathematics tool?
Currently, it is differentiation in math. They do have plans to expand to ELA. I know that is in the works. They've been talking about it for a while, and I'm really excited to see that. As far as what I do in my classroom with ELA, differentiation looks a little bit different than it does with math, because anyone who has any English background knows that the standards in ELA usually are very linked in with each other. It's hard to separate the standards out as far as what students need to know, like it is in math. Like, knowing how to do fractions and then knowing how to do addition and subtraction, you can you split those up. But ELA, they're so interwoven with each other. So what I've done a lot with that in my classroom is I will choose the standard, and then I'll choose a text based on the student's reading level. So everyone's working towards the same standard, but the resource or the instructional material that I use is different for each student who needs it. based on where their reading level is, where their understanding level is. So that's how I view it in ELA. But as I said, I'm excited to see where Tailor-ED is going to go with ELA differentiation.
Thanks. That's very helpful. And one of the things I also liked while you were taking us through the solution is that there's a solution for you as an individual teacher dealing with your classroom. But if I understood it correctly, there's also going to be a more data-driven tool for people in more central administrative positions to kind of withdraw or make new decisions on the basis of those data. Is that correct?
Yes, like the individual student screen. I'm gonna share my screen again so that I can show that one more time. This individual student screen here, I can see this being used as me as a teacher. If I had a full class of students, I would print this off quarterly or whenever my report cards or something went home, and possibly even include it in a student's cumulative folder, just so that I can track, I can show that data, what this student is doing, how they feel about it. And I know in my building, we have a lot of meetings that are data driven, especially with students who are struggling. And it's always important for us to bring as much data about that student as we can. And I could see this being a piece of data that I would bring to that meeting and say, okay, this student is really struggling in math, even the basic things that, that they should know at this age. And seeing that being, seeing this data being used as, okay, this is how we can meet the student's needs. This is the plan we can create. And so I can see it being valuable for administrators as well. Yes.
That is great. We are a global platform, so meaning we are working with teachers in the United States, in the United Kingdom, but also in India and Pakistan, kind of, all over the world. You are, of course, an educator and a very good one, I might add, in the United States. Is Tailor-ED, I don't know if you know, but you're part of their beta team. Is there an ambition to scale globally as well?
They are working globally. Matter of fact, they are not, just for the United States. Their standards are currently aligned with Common Core standards, which I know is a United States thing. But I teach in North Carolina in the United States, and we do not use Common Core standards. So that's why it's helpful when you're creating a lesson. You can choose by topic as well. You don't have to know the Common Core standard. You can search by keyword. You can search by, you can just, scroll down in the list. And because we, in the state that I teach in, we don't use Common Core standards, I have found that sometimes I have to go in and go to a different grade level because the standard in North Carolina may not be completely aligned with Common Core standards. So sometimes it takes a little bit of looking, but it's not as difficult to find things as I thought it would be because our state just switched to non-Common Core standards this past year. So it wasn't as difficult to find as I thought it would be. So that's helpful. Thank you all so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.